All right, guys, so I'm making this video because I haven't really done a whole lot of anything lately, to be honest with you. Been busy with stuff. I mentioned that Buick that's going to be coming here. Been buttoning up things I want to get done at the shop before I bring it here. Essentially, what I want to be doing here with that is light fabrication, body filler, blocking, what I consider the fun stuff. I love doing fabrication work, but I am limited to a couple of things here, which make it, I wouldn't say harder, just makes me get more creative. And for what I want to do in the time frame I need, there's a couple things I need to square up at the shop. And I'm a couple days behind schedule. I wanted to have it here like today, but we run into things, and I had problems with the core support. That was reed pop was too wide. So now I have to modify it. So I stayed late tonight and narrowed it down, and we got really, really good gaps. You know, the goal is to have gaps like this car. Real nice. Although this car, from twisting, this gap doesn't line up anymore. The only fan sticker. People always chuckle about that one. How do you think I keep the race car going, guys? Got to make that content, right? So I'm going to flip the camera here in a minute, and we'll talk about what we had going on this weekend. Obviously, you guys can probably already tell by what the spread is here, what it's like, but I'm going to talk about a couple things. All right, so this is going to be like kind of mildly hard to do because I actually think, hold on, I'm going to do this while, a little bit better. There's a crack running right through my screen where I would be recording, so that's why you're getting like a weird blur here. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and deal with it because I'm going to need a new phone pretty soon. But we went up and hit the local track, and mind you, it's a brand new, spanking new surface. And what it comes down to is we put the diff in the car some time ago, as you guys know. I'm kind of walking around to figure out the best spot. Here we go. This is a good spot. So, we got a 430 in the back. I wouldn't say that the testing is inconclusive. The odd part, though, is that the mile an hour was not affected. We made 3 passes, which was probably the most consistent the car has actually ever miled per hour, I guess you would say. All 3 passes were buck 12 all day. And there was a wide spread between the first and second run. And then between the second and third run, there wasn't even like 20 minutes because I ended up just pulling into my pits, fueling up, and then getting back in the staging lanes. So the track I was at has a totally brand new surface. We have not, I'm sure this is across the board all over most of the Midwest and northern states. We've had kind of a relatively cold spring. We haven't really had a whole lot of sun or a lot of heat. So the track has not seen good weather to cake that fresh rubber that has been dragged and put on there. They invited guys the Friday before, but they got a lot of rain the night before. And the first opening day of the track running was Sunday, and the conditions were just not ideal at track surface. At least on paper, we had a tailwind. It was like 50 degrees. It was fucking cold with the tailwind hitting you, and there's no shelter. So I'll post a picture of the time slips, but pretty much the first pass on the drag radials, I completely blew the tires off the car right off the line. There was no bite. So I'm like, oh, here we go, all over again. Been here, been there, done that. Pulled in the pits. I put the Hoosiers on, the bias plies, the full slicks, and we did a big burnout because I know the bias plies, they'll work, especially the Hoosiers. They got guys will run them down to the cords almost until the 60-foot starts to drop. Don't worry about it. So either way, did a big burnout. Staged, whatever, launched at about 2,000 RPM, Car hooked up, left great. I mean, the car feels like night and day, especially off the line. And it leaves super strong. But the problem was about 60 feet out, for me at least, once I hit that 1 to 2 shift, forget about it. My car was getting sideways. I was getting squirrely. On my second pass, I pedaled it pretty good, and I actually short shifted the 1 to 2 because I had to pedal it, and then ran it out the back on third gear, and I managed an 1172 at 112 with a 158 60 foot, which was that matches my best 60 foot yet. And then the third pass was like an 11.7, and it was another 11.7. Can't remember. You'll see it in the time slips when I post it. But either way, on the last run, I also spun pretty good on the 1 to 2, hooked really good in a 157 60 foot. So on the previous run it was a 158. I don't know if I misspoke on that one, but it was a 157 on the last run, which is the 60 foot is slightly better now, but also I'm figuring out the launch point. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because driving the car on the street, the RPM was not affected at all. If anything, it actually tightened up the converter a little bit because of the gearing. And so now when I'm cruising around on the highway at like 4,000 RPM, I'm actually not driving partially like on the slip end of the stall, if you will. It's actually pulling. So if I mash the gas at 4,000 RPM, it'll actually pull versus like slip and go, which it did before with a 390. So talking to my buddy at the track, I went out with my buddy to the track. He brought his small block Chevy powered 84 Cutlass. Used to be Olds powered. Thing's a monster. He was telling me that if anything, I gained consistency because even on my 2 passes where I spun, they weren't that far apart. So as far as driver technique goes, I'm equally as good of a shitty driver, I guess. So I managed to run 2 really close passes, spinning, same spot, same shift point, recovering the same way, and I still managed pretty close runs. You guys will see it in the time slips. But either way, it's a little inconclusive. So in a couple of weeks, I have the tough decision to make whether I'm going to run points at this track or I'm going to run points at the same track I did last year, which I was trying to avoid. And I wrote it off because they hadn't released a schedule, but they did. And they actually have a race schedule that favors the economic crunch of the times, if you will. So for me, it's kind of a toss-up. I may run some points races at the other track, and I'm probably going to try to focus on points racing at the track I ran last year. But I need some solid testing on a surface that's going to absolutely hook, and we have not had good weather at all. And the track there just was not holding the power down, period. There was all the fast cars that were there that day. Everybody pretty much left early after like their second run. They tried it twice, and that was it. And they didn't have a lot of cars. I think they had a total of like 70 cars. I've been at this track where they have had cars from the entry point all the way to the highway, which I think is like a 2-mile drive. So that just kind of tells you that with a new surface and the weather, it wasn't very promising anyway. But we went out, we made a run. Car ran great. As far as everything goes, this turd is holding up pretty good. I was worried about the engine. The oil pressure seems to be doing some weird stuff, but it's not going in the direction that most oil pressure problems happen. It's actually the opposite way. Like I have random flare-ups where it builds up pressure, so maybe it's a bypass issue, just like the engine we had on the run stand. But that's the problem too, is my garage with the heater I use condensates a lot, so that could be creating a problem there in and of itself. But after running it this weekend, it's like it's doing the same shit it did last year. Oil pressure's on point on the big end, at idle, and really everything seems to be in ship shape. So I'm just gearing up here for a race season project to have here in the garage just to kill time and kind of help out a friend. And either way, just getting ready for stuff here, guys. And I'm going to flip the camera yet again. Give me a second. All right. So we're gearing up to go racing, and there's a lot to think about. Obviously, we have the backup engine. I have a brand new transmission I haven't even ran. For what I spent on that thing, you'd think I'd be in a hurry to put it in, but I still need a good converter, and I'm holding out for now. But here's the reality, guys. The 403, I'm ditching it. I'm ditching the cores. I'm ditching everything. All these parts that I acquired for like a small block build, I'm selling. The RPM intake, the matched cam and lifters that are already broken in on the extreme energy cam. Everything here is going to be for sale, and I already got people interested, but I'm going to explain something to you guys. I may have mentioned in another video I was going to go to small block Chevy power, conventional small block Chevy power, not an LS. But here's the skinny. For what I have, for all the parts that I still have, I got a solid running engine there, even though like it might be questionable, so is this one. But between these two, I have enough top-end parts to just... The only pitfall I have right now is, I'm running stock rods and a stock crank, really good pistons, but I am winding this thing up to 7,000 RPM. And now with the new gear, I'm actually hitting the traps at like 6,500 RPM. So we did see quite a jump in RPM on the big end than we anticipated, to be honest with you. But either way, so what I'm going to focus on is actually just getting rid of everything. I would like to build a different motor for the Pontiac, but I've been daily driving that car for the last couple of weeks, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that car. So I ain't going to mess with it. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to get my stuff together, sell all this stuff, and start planning to do like a stroker build, because with a stroker build, I'm going to benefit from a little bit more cubic inches, and I'm not really worried about like strutability type power. What I'm going to be after is a workhorse engine that can last. And the biggest pitfall for me with this would be the stock rod, stock crank. With a stroker, at least you get a better crank, better rods. You're going to get good pistons in there, and you're going to have a pretty bulletproof combination overall, I think. And again, I'm a big believer in the small block olds and why it's superior to the 455 olds despite the cubic inches. I'm spinning this motherfucker 2,000 RPM over what most would want to spin a big block old safely with stock rods and crank. But, hey, that's just what I like to run. But I did the price comparison between going to small block Chevy, and with all of the inherent changeover stuff and starting from scratch, it would actually cost me more to go to small block Chevy powered, because I'm so vested in Oldsmobiles that really what I would spend to go to a Chevy platform, and we're only talking maybe 475 horsepower, like that type of a build, it's going to run me as much, if not more, than what it would cost me to build a stroker. I talked to a gentleman, not going to say any names or anything, but I talked to somebody about building a stroker package, just a basic short block. He's out of state, and pretty much the cost is there. It would cost me about $6,000 to do a stroker short block, and that's going to be for down the road. So this thing has to last one more season, and that thing has to work at least a season for me to get my shit together. So either way, this video's been long enough, but I'm just explaining to you guys what we've had going on. I still have that hood. That's a project for a friend. That's a freebie. I'm going to be painting it, doing some cool paint work on it, just like I did here. So, Big Jerry, just waiting for warmer weather, man. My garage is still kind of cold. Let's see what it's at today. It's 45 in here. I have to average 60 in the garage for me to want to paint in here. So either way, we do got some stuff coming up, but it's going to be kind of bland. So I hope you guys are cool with me doing other stuff. I'm actually even doing body work in here. It's kind of cool. I've never done any YouTube stuff with body work besides making my fiberglass bumper and like kind of painting my hood, but whatever. We'll see you guys later.